Steeler fans, welcome back to another episode of Steeler Stat Geek. This is behind the steel curtain Deputy Editor Dave Schofield coming at you to talk about some numbers from a fantastic win this past weekend. And we're going to be moving forward. And I know we usually talk about the next game coming up, but we kind of can't in this case because there's no game coming up. It is a bye week. So, with that, I know some people wanted to say, I saw someone in the post game show saying, "Man, Stat Geek's going to be interesting. What Dave's going to talk about." Well, here's what Dave's doing. Dave's doing something a little bit different. Dave decided he was going to bring a guest on tonight to come in and talk about some numbers. Now, although I have the unofficial official title of Behind the Steel Curtain Stat Geek, BTSC Stat Geek, I might not be the biggest stat geek in my own family. Now, I know I'm the biggest geek in my own family, but when it actually comes to stats, there's someone else who is just as much of a stat person as I am. For those of you who might know or might not know, in college, I got a degree in physics with a minor in mathematics. Following on the coattails of someone with their major in mathematics, would be my older brother, Rich, who is joining us tonight. To bring him in here, Rich, do you got me? How's it going?
I got you. Going well. Happy to be here with you tonight, there, bro. Let's talk some numbers. Time to geek out.
Yeah, let's geek out. So here's what's happening, everybody. You're going to get to see kind of what it's like when my brother and I hang out and watch football, or even actually, we've probably watched more football in stadium together than we have on TV lately, wouldn't you say? Because we don't
Lately,
live in
yes.
the same town or anything.
Right.
So we're that's what we do. We get together. It's so much fun whenever we go to games. We'll talk about that at the end. We'll mention one little thing about that. So this is I call him my big brother. I should call him my older brother because I've always seemed like I've had a little bit of advantage in the size department. So for those of you who saw me attempt to kick those field goals, that was some of your comments as, wow, you are a big guy, Dave. Yes, I am. So here's Rich. We're going to talk about first things first. We're going to say what happened this past week. Sunday Night Football. Steelers going out to LA, 3.5 point underdogs. 3.5 point. What am I saying? 6.5 point underdogs. Some places went as high as 7. They were supposed to lose this game by a touchdown. They're on their third quarterback starting for the season. There are only 2 guys at quarterback that were active, or 2 guys that weren't even on the practice squad with the Steelers or anybody in week 1. And that's what we had going out there. And what do you know? We go out there, take down those former San Diego. I think there was more people cheering from San Diego than in LA, which was an interesting thing that I saw today, that took down those Chargers. So, Rich,
Yes,
any
sir.
numbers stand out to you? What was the one key interesting stat that you thought would be kind of crazy that kind of led to this win?
Biggest stat popped out at me was kind of a little bit what Jeff had hit on earlier about, Steelers needed to do, the defense needed to show up, the defense needed to score. To me, the defense needed to show up and not let them rush the ball, and they did. Held them to 32 yards, 14 carries. We were aided a little bit there by the fact that we got out to a lead and they were having to play from behind, but still when they were handing the ball off, we were stuffing it.
Exactly. That's the key. So what were those numbers there? We had
32 yards, 14 carries. That was just under 2.3 per attempt.
Yeah, that's fantastic. That's worse than what the Steelers had run the ball a few times this year, when we were upset with how bad they were doing. But you gotta love that. You gotta love that. I'm going to jump in with another number to kind of piggyback off that a little bit of something that the defense did. I mean, we can talk about individual players. We're going to get there. But how about 18 incompletions? I mean, the Chargers had more incompletions. They almost had more incompletions than what the Steelers had attempts. It was only the Steelers only attempted 20 passes. The Chargers had 18 incompletions. They were 26 of 44. So you're saying, oh, well, they completed 26 balls, but on 44 attempts, that's pretty solid. The Steelers had 10 passes defended
Yeah, that was
out of those
another great
18.
another great number there. It was nice to see those passes defended. So used to us not having a very high number there, double digits. That was huge.
Yeah, I mean, I had to go back and try to scrape together those stats because when it comes to passes defensed, they don't do that in the places that I find. I need to. If someone else knows somewhere that then you can tip me off. That'd be great. Where they do that as a team stat, they do it as individual stats. So I had to go back and add up a bunch of individual stats. The last time the Steelers had that many passes defensed was week 1 of last season, which was an overtime game that went the whole length of overtime. So it took a long time, and that was once again a lot of batted balls. So that was I thought that was pretty good. Although they gave up a lot of yards as the game went on at the end, which was kind of part of the strategy. And I'll get to that in a little bit. Anything else you want to bring up numbers wise from this past week?
We ran the ball better. I'd still like to see us break off some bigger runs.
Mm-hmm.
And add up, but we rushed for 124 yards, 36 carries. The 36 carries was really nice to see. Finally got us some time of possession there.
Yes.
Let the defense catch their breath for a few minutes. We were at 3.44 yards per attempt. Not bad, not great. But I'll take it. Yep.
Effective was the best way I would say it. Is that it wasn't like they were running it down their throats. They ran it effective enough to control the ball. Here's a crazy stat that I looked up. Most of the Chargers stuff with their statistics came in the fourth quarter. We'll actually have some fourth quarter stats to throw out here. These are crazy. Okay, once again, what did I write on my paper? San Diego. Of course I did. When it came to plays run in the fourth quarter, the Chargers had 24 to the Steelers 14. So they had the ball for a lot more plays. They gained 135 yards in the fourth quarter when the Steelers only had 54. Of course, they got all 17 points there. Although that first drive where they got that field goal, they actually had negative yardage in the fourth quarter because the Chargers had the ball, moved it down the field, flipped the quarter, got sacked. I'm pretty sure it was a sack. Because it was one of the first plays of the fourth quarter where the Steelers got home for that sack and then kicked the field goal. But then they had a bunch of yards after that. So they had 135, the Steelers 54. So, that's what is that? 81 more yards in the fourth quarter. But in the fourth quarter, even though with all the yards and all the plays, the Steelers still had a greater time of possession, 751 to 709. So that tells you what were the Steelers doing in the fourth quarter? They weren't looking to press the ball down the field. They were looking to saying, hey, let's see, when they got the ball the first time in the fourth quarter, they had a 21-point lead and said, all right, let's just, rather than make them have to score 24 points rather than 21 and try to get that field goal, let's just take away their time so they wouldn't have enough time to do it. So that was an interesting stat there, that even though they kind of got dominated in other statistics in the fourth quarter, they did have the time of possession. So unless you have something else you want to say, I was going to open it up to the live chat now to say if there was any numbers. This is specifically from this past week that anyone wants to throw out there. We'll talk about them, and then we're going to move on to numbers basically from the season so far and how we want to see those numbers. Some of those numbers were like, hey, we need to keep this up. Some of those numbers will be, hey, we really need to improve on that. But if you have anything specific, I haven't been paying attention to the live chat. I've been paying attention to what I'm saying and to my brother, and just kind of wondering if anyone has anything there that you would like to throw out. There's a good one. I got it on my phone, but it's lagging a little bit here. Dennis, who's usually in here every Tuesday night and on other ones. How about our third down conversions? We're going to talk about that as something for the season. The Steelers were 8 for 13 on third down conversions. It was the first time all season they went over 3, and they did that in the first half. So anything you want to say about that, Rich?
Just was nice to see that help extend the drives. Allowed us to win that time of possession.
Yeah.
It's really part of what had been some of the issues in tiring out the defense all year. So it's nice to see those third down conversions keep drives alive.
Yep. Here we go. Cree throws out something that I'm actually going to comment on. 1 interception on Holton, 0 on Duck. In other words, um, that wasn't the best thrown ball, but you as a receiver, you can't let the defender just come in and take it away like that. That is pretty interesting. Well,
Yeah, just that's one where you'd like to see your receiver go up and fight for the ball.
yeah.
Holton was in position, if nothing else, to at least break it up, and he
Yeah.
really just let the defender come right through him. But
Yeah, what was interesting is I actually sent a text to Jeff Hartman after that interception and said, believe it or not, even though it was the interception, that might have been Hodges' best thrown deep ball of the night because his other ones didn't look good. He didn't complete any passes further than 10 yards downfield in the air. The longest one was the diving one from Moncrief that a lot of people think that the good thing they ran up to the line and ran a play because that was borderline. I don't know if it was enough to overturn it, but you don't want to deal with anything that gets sent to New York because you'd never know what they're going to do.
Not this year.
Not this year. Well, yeah, not last year. Not 2 years ago. Jesse James caught that ball. That's for sure. So that's interesting. I mean, especially early on, you could see. I mean, I think Duck did a great job. I think he did exactly what they needed him to do. But the biggest thing that he benefited from was the rest of the team did their job. The defense did their job. The running attack did their job. The offensive line opened up those holes. I mean, I'll be honest with you. It would have been nice to see them do that against the 49ers, but man, watching them play, their defensive front is legit. No wonder they couldn't get much of a rushing game going on against them. I think Duck did enough. I think if he would have been playing a team like the 49ers, they might have been in trouble because I don't know if they would have been able to run the ball if it would have all been on his shoulders. But guess what? They weren't playing the 49ers.
They weren't playing the 49ers.
They were playing the Chargers, and they had the right game plan with everything going on, with the right and having the quarterback to his strengths in order to win that game. Okay, we got some other stuff here. That's true. Gyro says, man, these are lagging when I click on them. Mason has a better QBR than Baker. Yes, he does. And he also has more touchdowns in less games. So here's something that we're going to have. We should mention. This is the first podcast since it's been official here behind the steel curtain, is that one trip to the IR for Stephon Tuitt. Super disheartening. Anything you want to say about that, Rich, before I
The only thing I noticed as the game went on, it was nice to see Alu. Man, he came to play.
Yeah.
Going to be interesting to see if he can step up his game. He's going to have to. We're going to need some help there on that line.
He's going to get more playing time, but they didn't just pass it all off to Alu. I like what they did.
Yeah.
He came in a lot. He got more. Cam Hayward went from, I think I read somewhere he usually had about 75% of the defensive snaps. He went up to right around 80. He went up a little bit, but not a ton. Alu obviously got more, but they got Javon Hargrave out there more.
Yeah,
they even
that was true.
They not even in the sub package when they only had 2 D linemen. They had Javon Hargrave out there at times with Dan McCullers.
Yep.
With Dan McCullers at nose. I'd have to go back and break it down personnel wise, play by play. And I remember seeing it was Hargrave, Alu, and McCullers were the 3 guys out there. I mean, and they got the job done. They did. So that's the thing. If you're kind of filling in those snaps by committee, that's fine as long as they do it. So here we're going to rapid fire a couple of these here real quick. I say rapid fire, but it's taken about 5 seconds after I click on these for them to come up. We had 0 sacks on Duck, no sacks given up. Okay. Here, this was coming from the other room at your house.
Other side of the room. He's
really
playing video games, watching the podcast.
Oh, okay. So that's your son. He's saying 1 pass Moncrief didn't drop. Officially, he didn't drop it as a statistic, but good thing they got up there. And and here we go. Oh, here we go. I like this. This is a good one. Anthony says Devin Bush. I can't verify this, but I think he's right. Devin Bush has more takeaways than Baker Mayfield has touchdowns. It's crazy. I know Bush has several fumble recoveries. I can't remember exactly how many touchdowns Mayfield has. So that was pretty good. Russ, I just like the way you phrased this. Um, O-line protected duck like an endangered species. I like that one. Let's see. Daredevil, 100 plus all-purpose yards for Connor. We're going to talk about Connor a little bit from now with some stuff with him. It was good to see that. Even though he was injured late, he said he maybe could have come back if he had to. But Snell was running effectively. So, all right, I'm trying to skip ahead here to see if I can bring up anything else. This was Cree talking about Stephon Tuitt. Big loss. Yeah, he was tied for second with sacks, which is a pretty bad thing there. Chris is saying we let's get Roosevelt Nix back. I'm telling you, it'd be nice to get him for the special teams and still get him to see if they would use him as a fullback. My biggest thing with Nix is it's to a point now. He will have been 6 weeks, including the bye week where he was out. It's to a point where they could have put him on IR and then had him return if he was going to be that long. So right now, if he doesn't play, not this coming Monday, but the following Monday against Miami, it's to a point where they might only get one extra week from him by not putting him on that IR. So we'll see how that goes. There was a couple transactions today by the Steelers, I'm going to say before we move on. Obviously, they had to put Stephon Tuitt on IR. They signed back LT Walton, who they drafted back in 2014, I do believe. Yes, 2014. They didn't sign him beyond his rookie contract because it was kind of one of those positions that they like to keep as cheap as they can. But now with Tuitt out, they wanted to bring in someone who was familiar. We'll see if I was kind of looking forward to see Isaiah Buggs get a few snaps, but I don't know if they completely want to redshirt him this year, if that's what they're trying to do. But I'm not sure. I got to throw this up here real quick. Vodka drinker. That defended pass by Joe Hayden down in the red zone was a defensive back's dream, where he laid out for that ball to knock it down. That was pretty sweet. The Steelers did add 2 more players to their practice squad this week or today. A running back that was in Falcons camp. I can't remember his last name. It's hyphenated. I think James Brooks or something in there is the last name. And they added an offensive lineman that had bounced around to some practice squads. So those are guys that are here for now. Who knows if they stick around? So, well, that's enough about last week. Let's go on. This is usually the part of the show where we get excited about talking about the next game, but we can't get that excited because there's no game. So the best thing to do is let's get excited about things that have happened already in 2019 for the Steelers that they need to continue on for the rest of the season. So we're going to start off with that. Now,
somebody mentioned one up above. We better hit it.
Okay.
That's because you held off on that coming out of the live chat because it didn't have to do with the past game. But why don't you hit that one?
Which was it? I'm looking back. I'm looking.
Who had it?
I'm looking. I'll bring it up. Well, why don't you start talking? I'll bring it up when I find it.
All right. Takeaways. It was an area weakness last year. Suddenly this year, fumbles, interceptions. We're taking the ball away. We're giving our offense more opportunities. Now, the offense hasn't always made the most of those opportunities. We did this week. And actually was nice to see the defense hop in on one of those takeaways and Devin Bush, take it to the house and get that defensive score Jeff kept talking about.
Yes. Yeah, that's you know what? I can't find it. I think it was back too far where I can't get back there. But yes, people that were talking about takeaways, you are exactly right. Jeff said the defense was going to have to win a game. And one of the ways they could do that is by scoring points. Steelers won by 7, defense put up 7. And they let the offense. It's not just when they scored it. I think it was the timing of that score. Don't you think that's something that was important?
Oh, what? To get that score right off the bat?
Yeah.
Absolutely important. Took all the pressure off Duck.
Yeah. Well, because, and this was something I could keep going on and about, but I've been beating this dead horse for a long time. I wasn't even going to bring it up tonight, but I will anyway. Ineffective first drives. I mean, Steelers were another 3 and out this week. I mean, they've had The only game that they haven't had 3 plays or less on offense in their opening drive was against New England. They got 1 field goal because of the turnover in San Francisco. The rest have been punts, or in Cincinnati, it was the fumble, the turnover. So they started in their typical slow fashion, and you're like, all right, here we go again. Then what happens? Defense steps up. Now, that was an interesting play because that was more of a heads up play. I want to know if you did what I did, or if anyone else in the live chat did this. How many of you were screaming at your TV, pick it up, that's a lateral, pick it up, pick it up. Vince Williams just kind of standing there like, huh? And who had the heads up play to run up and pick it up? Hey, he knew, why not? There was no whistle. I don't even know if he saw the pass. There's no way from where Devin Bush was standing that he could tell for sure that that was a backwards pass. But he didn't hear a whistle.
He didn't hear a whistle.
Yeah, he didn't hear a whistle.
Yeah.
And that's what bothers me sometimes in the NFL is when they don't blow the whistle on plays that they should. Then you can't trust that not hearing the whistle means that the play's still going on.
You know, part of what made that play as well, that play was actually made, I believe it was Watt coming off the edge. It was the pressure first. I mean, Rivers was about to be sacked and had to get rid of that ball and had to throw it high. Turned out great
I don't
for
think
us.
he intended that to go backwards at all. I don't think he did. I think it was the pressure that forced it backwards, because that's the last thing you want to do in a situation like that, because you wanted an incompletion there is better. But his running back was so deep, and I don't think he wanted to get intentional grounding because he was in the pocket. He had to throw it where he was. So it was a good heads up play. He did a great job of making sure he cut over and got to the touchdown zone. I'm sorry, I haven't been able to pull out a touchdown zone for a long time. Shout out to Brian Anthony Davis. Oh, that, of course, that just distracts me. But that was big right there. So they got that, and then they turn around and they come back out on the next drive. And what happens on the next drive? Another
Touchdown.
on the defensive drive,
the tip pass again.
Yeah.
Pressure on Rivers.
I saw
Steeler fan 74 on there said 1 sack, but it seemed like Rivers was sacked more than just once in that game, and it did, because even though we didn't get to him, we had pressure on him all day, and it was the pressure that caused the fumble return for the touchdown, and it was the pressure that caused the tip pass for Bush's intercepted.
Exactly. Right. They were talking about that. I think, I try to get on and listen to Coach Tomlin's press conference after the game right away, so I'm hearing some of the wrap up on the radio. That's the best way for me to make sure I'm getting it on time. And I'm pretty sure it was Tunch Ilkin saying, hey, you don't always have to sack the quarterback. You just have to disrupt him. You have to just constantly disrupt him. Phillip Rivers is a possible Hall of Fame quarterback in many eyes, which is funny because they want to anoint him more than the guys he was drafted with that actually won Super Bowls.
Yeah.
But that's a whole different debate. He knows to get rid of that ball. He's not going to take sacks, but he had so much pressure on him. If you take those same pressures in most of the other games that the Steelers have, and they're sacks. It just so happened to be that Rivers is smart enough to get rid of the ball. Yeah. So that pressure was crazy. It was great. So the Steelers get the defensive touchdown. They turn around and get the turnover, and the Steelers go down and take that turnover and turn it into 7 points.
And that's something we need to continue to do more of as well. When we get those turnovers, we need to try to get some touchdowns off of that.
And here's the other thing. Technically, the Steelers did not do quite as well with their points off of turnovers this week. They had 14, but off of 3 turnovers. And you're like, I know someone that said 21 points off of 3 turnovers. I said I'd take 17. You know what I'll even take even more? 14 points off a turnover and a kneel down on the other one. I mean, that's the thing. They could have kicked a field goal there. You didn't want a field goal. You wanted to end the game. They got the turnover to end the game. So that was just a fantastic defensive effort all around. But those takeaways, you're right. There's 15 of them on the season. And here's what's interesting. Out of those 15 takeaways, remember, they started off in week 1 with 0. So that's 15 takeaways in 5 games. So that's 3 per game. They went 0, 2, 5, 2, 3, 3. So since I'm going to throw this in there, since Minkah Fitzpatrick has joined the Pittsburgh Steelers, that's 13 takeaways in 4 games. I think that means something. That's something that has to continue.
Yes, it does.
Now, do I think it's going to continue quite at that pace? That would be fantastic. That would put them over 30 for the year. I don't know if they can keep that up.
I don't know if they can either.
But you know what would be really nice? How about, well, let's just say they can have one more game where there's no where there's no takeaways. I'll give you one. Okay. So out of the other 9, how about every 3 games, 4 takeaways? 1 per game and an extra one out of every 3 games. That's 12. That puts them up to 27 takeaways on the season, which when we talked about it in the offseason, we're like, coming in with 15, you've got to get over 20. You've got to try to get, man, maybe they can scrape together 22 takeaways, is what we talked about on the Steelers preview leading up to the season. Now you're talking about, can they get close to 30? So that's something that definitely needs to continue as a team. I was going to say the other thing that I think needs to continue as a team is that pressure on the quarterback and sacking the quarterback. The Steelers, now grant they only had 1 this past week, but like we said, lots of pressure. And in fact, 3 of their 6 games, they've only had 1 sack in 3 of their 6 games. But they have 20 on the season. So 20 on the season, that's going to put them really close to that 50 sack number that we talked about a lot in the preseason. Of the Steelers have never gone 3 consecutive seasons with 50 sacks in a season. That's what they have a chance to do this year. And honestly, they did that against, I don't want to get into it too much, but you have to admit the Steelers' schedule was front loaded.
Oh, very much so.
I mean, well, we didn't know San Francisco was going to be that tough of an opponent. Well, we knew for the Steelers it would be, going to the West Coast and all that other stuff. But we wouldn't realize how good they were compared to everybody else. But they already played the Patriots. They've already played the Seahawks. They've already played the 49ers. I mean, look at those teams that they've had to play so far. And they could have won a couple of those games. So the fact that they've got 20 sacks against the better part of their schedule, I'm thinking they can get to that 50, and I'm not going to say with ease, but unless I don't want to even say it, because it hurts to have Stephon Tuitt go down. You don't want to see that happen anywhere else. But do you think they can get to 50 sacks?
I don't see any reason why they couldn't. A lot of your pressure is coming from the outside. Bud Dupree, TJ Watt. Does it hurt to lose to it? Sure, it does. But like we talked about earlier, if those guys can come in and play line as a committee, I don't see any reason why the numbers couldn't continue and they could end up close to that 50 sacks.
Yeah. Well, the other thing by doing it by committee is because they're all used to it, then you can play the hot hand. Like everyone was talking about how Javon Hargrave was going to, this is going to be his big bust out year. It hasn't been to this point, but now he's going to have the chance to get on the field more. Not that he's been disappointing, but a lot of teams have been paying attention to him. So let's say Hargrave is having a great game. You keep him out there a little bit longer. Let's say Alualu's doing great and batting down passes. You keep him out there a little bit longer. Let's say McCullers is struggling with his matchup of where he's going to be. Then you want to keep Hargrave more at nose. If the other team's interior line struggles with a really big guy, put him out there and let Hargrave go to town in that guard tackle area. So it does give them, because I think they have that quality depth, I think it does give them options to where, the last thing you want to do is see someone, it's not like at corner where Artie Burns had to play the whole game this past week, which he did not do a terrible job. They picked on him. He didn't give up the touchdown. He stayed in there. I wouldn't say that, oh my goodness, he just showed he was a superstar, but he played solid enough.
He played solid. He had a few, I like to call them the Artie Burns plays.
Yes.
He was a little handsy on a couple of those and got called on it. But Overall, he was okay. He
Yeah.
wasn't a huge liability.
Yeah, but when it comes to something like that with defensive back and they put Burns out there, he's the guy the whole time. And if he struggles, you're in trouble.
Yeah.
If you're talking about defensive line where they rotate those guys in, if someone's struggling, you just kind of ease them out of the rotation like they could. It's a lot easier to cover someone having a rough game on the defensive line than it is in the secondary. So I think that's good. Let's talk about before we get into individuals. Let's talk about some team things that could be improved on. Things that the Steelers have done so far this year that you'd really like to see those numbers improve as they move forward.
Top one for me. We touched on the improvement this game, but I think it needs to continue to go, and that's going to be those third down conversions.
Oh, absolutely.
To me, that was a huge deal this game to keep our offense on the field, give the defense a breather, sustain drives. Was nice to see, but it's got to continue like this past game, not like what we'd seen up until this point this season.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you some numbers with that. Up until this week, the Steelers did not have. They had exactly 3 third down conversions in every game until this week when they had 8. But those numbers were 3 for 12, 3 for 11, 3 for 12, 3 for 9, 3 for 9, until they threw in the 8 for 13. Going into the week, their third down conversion percentage was 28.3%, and that had them, I think, like 29th or something.
29th, I believe.
Yeah, Lance Williams actually sent me the stat. I should be looking it up here. Of where they ranked. You throw in this week where they were over 50%, that brings them up to 34.8 on the season, which means, oh, here it is from Lance Williams. Thanks, Lance. As a result, they jumped from 29th to 21st, just in one improved game. So that they don't have to get up to be the tops in the league. It's kind of hard to do that now, as bad as they started. They need that number to go up and up and up and up every week. It doesn't have to be the 8 of 13 every time. It doesn't have to be 9 of 10, but it can't be 3 of 11. They're just not gonna, because that's going to turn into what I'm going to tie this right into another one. Okay, time of possession.
Yep,
the two go hand in hand. The Steelers finally owned the time of possession of the game this past week. They were up by just over 8 minutes because they had it for 34 minutes and 5 seconds. It was the only game all season that they held the ball for 30 minutes. They were very close against Cincinnati, their other win. They were 14 seconds away at 29-46. But if you look at their other games, it was 27-27, 24-14, meaning 24 minutes, 14 seconds. I should probably be more specific with this. 23-43 and 25-34. So they had a time of possession of under 26 minutes in 3 of their 6 games. So that means they were giving up at least 8 minutes in time of possession in those games. But they had the big bounce back this week. So I actually have a third thing I'm going to throw out there, which because I think they're all tied together.
Okay.
And what is it? What do you think I'm going to say?
Well, if you're talking time of possession and third down conversion, well, the connection to time of possession as well has got to be we got to run the ball better.
Run the ball better. That's exactly right. That's another thing that the Steelers can improve on. They have, let's see, what do I have here? 459 yards on 131 carries. Okay, so I mean, they have not. This week was the first week that they've gone over 100 yards rushing in a game. And it was also the first week that they went for more than 25 carries in a game. Now, I mentioned that before. I'm trying to remember if it was on Stat Geek or it was on the Burning Question about when we did our fantasy football back in college.
That was on the Stat Geek because I was watching that night.
Okay. And yep, you were the commish.
That's right.
You were the old guy. You were the grad student guy.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think. When we started off, it was more because your wife was a grad student, right?
Yep.
And that's when I was in college. You were there. Got a bunch of guys together. Ran this fantasy football league, but we didn't run it through Yahoo. Didn't run it through ESPN. This was a stat thing. This was stats. For those of you that do fantasy football out there, I would bet you that the majority of you might look a little bit at the stat lines of your players, but they've made it so lazy now. You just go in and see what points they
Just
scored.
yeah, exactly.
You're just checking the points. We didn't know those points unless we looked at those stats ourselves. We went in there, got those stats. Oh, did my guy rush for 25 yards? Oh, there's 2 points. I mean, we had low scoring games. If you scored 35 points in a fantasy game in this league, you were probably going to win
Uh,
because
if you made the 40s, you had a
yeah.
good chance to win. 30s didn't
Well,
guarantee you
oh,
anything.
I think I remember winning a game at one time like 23-19.
You
But
did.
you get those sometimes even in today's scoring. But they like you get 5 handoffs and get some points. Our league, you had a running back he had to get 25 carries and then he got 2 points. And then he got a bonus point every 5 carries after that. He got 3 points for 100 yards rushing and then he got a bonus point for every was it 25 or
I think it
50?
was 25. I think it was
25.
25
Yep.
on the running backs.
Receptions. I know we're taking it aside. You guys are just going to have to. This is us broing out right now. Receptions. It was none until you hit 5, and then we did a point for every reception over 5. I remember you had Terrell Owens when he went nutso that one game, right?
Yeah,
When he
for
had
like
like
11 receptions and
oh no,
200 some yards.
it was like 17 or something. It was
I don't know,
yeah
but it was just those kind of numbers are
yeah we're crazy.
those were guaranteed wins then.
Yeah, exactly. And then and of
Uh,
course you got 6 points for your touchdowns. Quarterbacks only got 4 points for throwing a touchdown because quarterbacks were stacked anyway. But the quarterbacks, they had to throw for 300 yards to get any yardage points. And they had to have 25 completions in order to get those. So those were the crazy stuff. So we were big into stats then because we had to be in order to be successful. And it's funny that I ended up being the one who was writing for the website because I used to remember you'd come back on a Thursday night to your dorm room and what were you looking forward to? I printed up newsletter for our fantasy um, games slid underneath your door. You had write-ups of the week that was. You talked about matchups coming up and everything. We had newsletters, printed on paper, slid under the door on scoring that was done by hand. It was in case you guys are wondering, this was just before 2000. This is when we did all
Yep.
this. So
90, 98.
yeah,
That's
this
when we
was
started.
then it was a lot of fun. But anyway, I'm sorry I went off in that rant long enough.
Yeah,
So it was coming back to rushing, and that was the Steelers aren't rushing enough.
well, some of that at times have been because we've been behind in some games, and have kind of abandoned the run. Yeah, you probably have the stats over there in front of
Yep,
you somewhere in terms
I
of
do.
what our attempts have been every game. Yeah,
New England, 13 attempts.
yeah, that's.
Mhm.
I don't know how you're going to get anything
Yeah.
with 13 attempts.
Seattle, a game that they were winning at halftime, 16 attempts. San Fran, they did a little bit better. That was Rudolph's first start,
Yep.
22 attempts. But the problem is 22 attempts, 79 yards. That was tough. They're a good defense. Then they got up to 25 attempts against who they beat, the Bengals, and then they had 19 against the Ravens, where they actually had more yards per rush than the Ravens did, but only rushed 19 times to the Ravens 40. And then this past week they stuck with it and rushed 36 times. So it's very simple. When the Steelers hit that 25 rushing attempts in a game, they've won them so far this year. So
That's been a stat in years past that's been talked about. That
yeah,
magic number 25 for the Steelers seems to be big. So we do need to run the
yeah.
ball more.
But see, that's also a cause and effect thing. That's so difficult.
Yeah.
Are you winning the game because you're running the ball more, or are you running the ball more because you're winning the game? I think it goes. It depends on the game. Sometimes one is true, and sometimes it's the other. What do you think?
Um, yeah, I'd agree. Kind of depends on how the game's playing out. I'd like to think that this past game, some of those attempts were because we were, ahead in the game, but you knew we were going to run it heavy anyway if we could, since
Yeah.
we had Duck in the game.
Well, and the Broncos had just run for like 200 and some yards on them the week before.
Right.
So we knew that that this was a team that could, and one of their better defenders was out in Melvin Ingram. Okay.
But Were you
No,
looking for me to say something?
no,
Let me talk about
I'm
Melvin
sorry.
Ingram?
I know. I felt like I interrupted you just to throw in a side comment, and I was going to
You're
finish.
good.
Okay, yeah, I did.
I'm used to it.
Yeah, that's what we do. So, yeah.
Not used to anybody in our family being in the same room and there being any silence though.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, it's usually tough to get a word in with us. So, just to throw out what the numbers were, the Steelers now on the season are rushing are having 76.5 yards a game rushing. Take away the last game, going into the last game, they were at 67. So that came up based on those 124 yards. And they were going into week 6 only 19.0 carries per game. But of course that bumped up to almost 22. So of 21.8. So that was pretty good. Let's talk about some individuals moving forward. Um, do we want to go positive or negative right off the bat? Do we want to talk about who needs to improve or who needs to keep up the good work?
Um, let's talk improve.
Okay. Who do you think really needs to try to work on their stats and getting them improved?
Um, well, I'm going to pick one that's an easy one to pick. However, I think it plays in a little more than just this person,
Yes.
and that's Juju.
Yeah, I knew
Uh,
that was what you're going to
yeah,
say.
Juju's numbers just aren't what we've been expecting from Juju's numbers. I forgot who mentioned it earlier in the live chat. Like, gee whiz, he's going to be lucky to make 500 yards for the year. He's
Mhm.
going to make more than that for the year. But
He's at 340 right now.
I know part of Juju's numbers improving it is partly we need some of our other receivers to step up.
Yeah.
Because it's easy right now. Everybody's going to roll coverage at Juju until other guys show that they can beat them. Who's going to step up? I'd like to think Deontay Johnson is right there on the cusp of being able to step in and take some of that pressure off of Juju, but we're not quite at that point yet.
Gotcha. Yeah. Sorry, I hadn't been looking at the live chat, and someone's like, "Hey, can we kind of take care of someone who's misbehaving in there?" So I was kind of looking to go do that. But you were absolutely right with the whole thing with Juju. Um, you were spot on. No, I don't know if that just came through or not because I'm trying. I was getting double playback from YouTube. I don't know if you guys heard that or not. So I think to go along with Juju, I think we kind of also mentioned this with the rushing stats is James Conner with his yards per rush. I think is something that could need to improve. I think it's going to improve as he gets more carries, for sure. But that's just one of those things that's going to have to improve. Sorry, as I'm there. You can have a timeout, Mister. I'm not going to say your name. Um, that's just one of those things that should come more as we're going. But here's an interesting stat with Connor. Do you realize that in half of the games this season, he's had more receiving yards than rushing yards?
Yeah. And that's been obvious. And some of those passes have actually been like run plays.
Yes.
Um,
I say that a lot, that if it's to a running back and it's kind of like just a little swing pass, getting them clear the line of scrimmage and they're catching it behind the line of scrimmage, that's a lot like a run.
yeah. How's that much different than a toss sweep?
Oh, exactly. And that's kind of like those well, we've got to say it. Those touch passes from Jalen Samuels when they were running the Wildcat against Cincinnati.
Right.
Those are rushing yards, but they went down as receiving yards.
Right.
So it's just one of those things that I think it's going to improve, but it doesn't have to be all on his shoulders. I think get Jalen Samuels back, get him a few carries. Benny Snell showed that he could do all right. It's not like he's setting the world on fire, but he did what he needed to do for the Steelers when Connor was a little bit banged up. So I think Juju. I've been hearing this a lot from Lance Williams, who goes in and breaks down the all 22 like crazy. He sends me still shots and all kinds of stuff. And he's saying the problem is not that with Juju getting open. He's saying Juju is getting open. He's just not getting the ball thrown his way. You also got to look at it this way. I think Juju is getting open further down the field because teams aren't as concerned with him as that happens because they're not, especially this past week. I don't know that they had all the confidence that Juju could get hit with a deep shot. If you look back at that, at the long touchdown to Deontay Johnson, which one was that? I'm trying to remember which game, but it was where him and Juju ran a deep cross,
Yeah.
and there was three defenders, and all three of them shaded over to Juju, and that left Deontay Johnson wide open for him to throw for Rudolph to hit him for the touchdown. So Juju's having effect on the game. It's just he's not getting his stats, but I don't think Juju cares. I mean, I think that it's nice to have stats. It's nice to have touchdowns, but as long as they're succeeding, if he's not going to get his numbers and they're going to lose games, that's just a double whammy. Some guys wouldn't care if they lost as long as they got their good numbers. But we don't have players like that anymore on our team, which we won't even talk about. So those are two guys that it's not that they've been terrible, but it would be nice to see an improvement in the next 10 games from what we got in the first 6. So is that a good way to sum that up?
Yep. Very good way to sum that up.
Yep. So we kind of talked a little bit about this one before we came on the air. You could go on and on and on about players that need to keep doing what they're doing on the defense. So we're going to think outside the box. We're going to let the defensive ones up to people in the live chat here in a minute. We're going to think outside the box. Who's someone who's had a really good season that you might not have been expecting or you might have been hoping for that has done a nice job and needs to keep it up?
Oh, the first one off the bat, Boz.
Exactly.
He's I mean, it's almost the point where you can say Boz is back.
Yeah. I mean, they haven't put him in tough situations, which has been really nice. They've put him in really good situations. He's 100%. He's 11 for 11 in field goals and 12 for 12 in extra points. And I kept saying, but they're not having him kick any long ones. He does have a 49-yarder. And he has four field goals of 40 yards or more out of those 11. So
yeah, and that's the range where he had such struggles last year. So
exactly. So that's just one of those things. It looks like he's back. I don't want to say he's back because I'm afraid.
Watch. We'll go out next game and he'll miss 3 field goals and we'll look like idiots.
Yeah. Yep.
Not that we don't usually look like idiots.
But we were used to looking like idiots, but not in front of 100 people in the live chat. That's the problem. I'm going to piggyback right off that with the other one that we talked about that we thought would be fun to mention. And that is someone that I've been wanting to get rid of for the last couple of years, and that's one Jordan Berry. I mean, and there he is. Steelers fan 74 knew it was coming. Okay, yep. Someone else might have said it first. Yeah, Jordan Berry. He is averaging 47.1 yards per punt. Okay, his average has gone 45.6, 44.8, 52.3, 49.5, 43.75, and 46.25. Now, sometimes the average hurts you a little bit. He's got a long, I think, of 62 or something like that. Crazy. He had 159 this past week. But what was his best punt?
The best punt was the one that went 35 yards and pinned him at the 1-yard line.
Exactly. It was the punt that won the game, if you think about it. If that ball goes in the end zone, do you really want them starting at the 20? I mean, putting their backs against the wall where they're nervous. Oh, we can't hold in the end zone. We can't even try to do that, or we're going to give up the safety. That does a lot to a team. I mean, and that was 2 different times in the last 2 games. They've pinned the ball to 1. So that is what it is. So I'm going to open it up to the live chat now.
Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff going on in there.
Yeah, well,
although since I talked about Boz, I think it was up there a little bit. Vodka Drinker asked about what was up with Boz not getting kickoffs into the end zone. I actually wanted to touch on that just a second, if that's all right.
Here we go.
Yep,
I found it.
Boz actually has no problem reaching the end zone and kickoffs, and actually he drove a couple through the end zone the other night. I've really started paying attention to some strategy by the Steelers on some of Boz's kickoffs. Actually, it was Dave, Kyle, and I watching a game, and I was wondering what was up with Boz because he was only taking 5 yards for a run up on a kickoff, and his kicks were ending up right around right around the end line, between the 5-yard line and the end line, and was wondering what was going on. Later in the game, suddenly he backs up, takes 10 yards, run off, and kicks it clear through the end zone. I think there's strategy involved.
Yeah.
That we've been seeing that. Don't just give them the ball on the 25-yard line. See if they can run it out. And when we hold them to the 20, hey, 5 extra yards for us.
Yeah, exactly. They're basically, that's what the Ravens were doing to us, is that they were getting that big hang time, letting their guys get downfield and try to pin the team deep. And the Steelers have been doing a good job with that. If you don't have the right kick coverage, guys, it's not going to work. But they've been doing a good job on the kickoff coverage, pretty good. The other question was that some people like they didn't have faith in Boz. Was the end of that? I keep wanting to say San Diego. The end of the game Sunday night in LA or in Heinz Field West. That the Steelers could have gone for it on 4th and short. They could have gone for a super long field goal, or they could have punted to pin them deep. And before the play even happened, on a group text I have with Jeff and Lance, I said, "What are you guys doing here?" And what did all three of us say?
Punt the ball.
Punt. Punt the ball. You know, part of you wants to say, "Oh, go for it and end it." That's great. I'd rather pin them deep than give them the ball way out there. I mean, 54, that's tough.
Yes, Boz has been perfect, but was that the situation you wanted to put him in?
Exactly. So I felt, hey, your defense had been doing the job. You put your defense on the field to start overtime the week before because you wanted to put it on your defense. Why don't you give them great field positions to go out there and end the game? And that's what they did 2 plays later with the interception. So, I mean, it was desperation mode. It was great. So I'm going to bring up some stuff for the people from the live chat. How about, this was great. Cam Sutton doing great. He's playing well. I mean, some didn't realize that Joe Hayden left that game early. They had none of their normal starting quarterbacks out there at the end. Sorry, cornerbacks. Well, as long as they're quarterbacks too. It was Cam Sutton on the outside on one side with Artie Burns on the other. And he made a great play. And what a great play on the onside kick as well.
Oh yeah.
That one got me. I wouldn't have done an onside kick there because they had the 3 timeouts. And it was obvious that the Steelers weren't going to put it in Duck's hands and say, "Go get us a first down to win." They were going to run. Is what they were going to do. This is the time I need to say this because one just popped up. If you want to use the super chat feature to make sure that your question gets answered or your statement gets put out there, you can type it in and hit the $ thing, put any amount of money you want in there. It goes towards the show. Don't feel like you have to do it, but it is an option for you all. Snowman puts $5 in the tip jar and said, "Thanks, Dave, for getting those turkeys out of the chat room last night and tonight." Last night I actually produced The Hangover. I tried to do it mobily and it didn't work very well to start, but I eventually made it home to where I was pulling up questions. I was kicking people out of the live chat. We don't want a bunch of people like that in there. I'm glad I could do that for you, Snowman. Here, Steelers, I always mess this alliteration up. Steelers fan frenzy with Flip says, way more impressed with Filer run blocking and pass protection. How much did you hear about Bosa?
Didn't.
Yeah. You do realize that Filer, sometimes PFF rankings mean something, sometimes they don't. But Filer's actually the highest ranked offensive lineman for the Steelers this season. That caught me a little bit by surprise. But then you watch a game like Sunday night and you see it.
Well, you're not hearing about it. You're not, when you're not hearing his name because he's getting beat, you're not seeing him on the replays getting beat. Yeah. Not a lot of penalties, things like that. He's kind of flying under the radar, and in doing so, it's actually because he's playing really well.
Yeah. So here we go with good old Captain Underpants saying our secondary is going to be scary when healthy. What do you think of that?
Yeah, I kind of agree. When healthy.
Yeah.
Or if healthy.
I think Steven Nelson, that really surprised me. I thought that was shocking to find out that he wasn't going to make the trip with the team because he had practiced all week just in limited capacity. And I thought I had to go in and change my inactive prediction at the last second before that came out because I was going to have him active because he practiced each day, even though he's questionable. And then he gets downgraded to out. But I think he'll be back. Joe Hayden, especially with the bye week, I think he should be good. The Steelers, by adding Steven Nelson in the offseason and trading for Minkah Fitzpatrick, they went from a secondary that we felt like was full of holes to something that just seemed like it is a strength of the defense.
Yeah, it kind of plugs things up there on the back end and allows the guys up front to do what they're best at, and that's get after the quarterback.
Exactly. So, all right. Just trying to. I know I had a super chat feature, another super chat one in here.
You better get that super chat one in there. I kind of like that one.
Yeah. I'm trying to find it because they're not highlighted. There we go. Kathy Ford. She likes to throw in a little bit every time. $2 in the tip jar. Hope you bring Rich back. You know what? I'm going to have to. Well, first of all, Rich is a very busy guy. I know that he's an extremely busy guy. But I also have to get the permission from one Jeff Hartman, so he's got to listen back to this show and tell us what he thinks. It's much nicer doing a show with somebody else. Even if it's not all the time, but every once in a while. Here, something I got to talk about. Steeler fan 74.
Good one.
How does the Survivor League look? Yep. When did you get knocked out?
Early? Week before this. I took the Chargers at the wrong time. I should have picked them this past week and let them knock me out there. The Chargers knock me out every year, it seems like. I don't know why I have any faith in Phillip Rivers. But, yep, I was out week before.
Yeah. And the only time that really paid off for people was when the Chargers played the Dolphins. Yeah. And that one was interesting because the Dolphins did have an early lead on that one. We are down to. This came out this afternoon on the website. It was really late in the day because we had some other things happen with the Stephon Tuitt and whatnot. But it's there if you want to go look at it. We are down to 103 entries. Now, 6 of those are mine because I am still alive. I don't know that I've ever lasted this long in the Survivor pool. I went with Seattle, which was a little bit made me nervous early on, but Seattle, I just needed them to take down the Browns. Now, I'm not going to win this thing, even if I'm the only one standing. There's one other person; they'll be the winner when it comes to the football. But that's who I took. So with 103 remaining slots. 6 of them are mine. That means we're actually down to 97 contestants from 587. So we lose. We've been losing about 20% every week. In one of the leagues, the last one we had that wasn't quite all the way filled, just had 90 some. There was only 2 people that were knocked out, and it was because they didn't make their pick. Everyone else was correct, but only 3 people didn't make their picks. You got to remember to make the picks. I mean, but what's funny is I'm the one doing this and writing the articles and everything else. I put it right in the article. If you go in and read it, say, if you are still alive, go make your pick right now so you don't forget. There used to be a feature where you could make them for the season, and I put that in the article. And then someone said, "Hey, I tried to do that and it wouldn't let me." And I went in, and they won't let you do it anymore. That was kind of disappointing. But that's what's going on there. We're getting down to it. Who's this? We'll see if we even get to that week 15, because in week 15 is when people have to make 2 picks a week to see if we can narrow people down. So it's getting tough. A lot of the good teams this week isn't so bad because there's some teams left out there that have some pretty good matchups. But as the buys come on and people use up teams, it's getting tough. So let's see what else we have going on in here. So just to bring up some news, I did see this before the show about Ramsey being traded to the Rams for this coming year's first round pick, the following year's first round pick, and that year's 4th round pick.
Yeah, makes what I saw reported. Makes what we gave up for Minkah look like peanuts now.
Yeah, because not only, I mean, we traded we gave him a 6th to get a 7th, but we also traded a 5th to get a 4th. So we kind of upgraded a little bit better there. So here someone said he wanted to ask you about that. How on earth the Rams signed so many free agents? The answer to that is simple. Well, do you think you know what the answer is to that, Rich? Yeah, they have Aaron Donald, who sucks up a bunch of their cap.
Yeah, I'm going to say that. They got to have cap space. You
got to have cap space.
Number one.
What's the best way to have cap space?
Don't pay anybody.
That's true. That's true. The easiest way to have cap space, honestly, is when you have a quarterback on their rookie deal.
Yeah.
So that's it. If you can, when you have a quarterback on a rookie deal or a team friendly deal, like the team up north keeps doing, that allows you to do so much more with your roster. Now, someone had brought it up. This was something I had not heard before the show because I was trying to get together numbers, make sure we were all set up. Something that the Ravens might have also made a trade here recently. I don't know if that's true or not. So if somebody knows that, let me know. Lex asked a question. I don't know the exact answer to this about where our defense is ranked. I could possibly try to get that real quick. Defensive ranking is based on the amount of yards given up. So in a game like this on Sunday, the Steelers actually gave up more yards than they usually do because they were winning for so long. So that's kind of a tough thing. That's a good question. You know what? I'll make sure I have that answer next week because I don't want to sit here and be buried looking up a stat the whole time. Double HH, I like this. There's two problems with this statement. If the Steelers manage to make the playoffs this year, don't look now, but Tomlin would be a coach of the year candidate. One thing about that I'm going to say is that would get a lot of people out there fired up because they don't want to see him around anymore. I don't want to talk about the whole thing with Washington, but I have an article. Go ahead. No, go ahead, bro.
No, nobody wants to talk about that thing with Washington. Especially Mike Tomlin.
Yeah. Yep. He's not going to dismiss it, but who knows? So here's the thing when it comes about I wrote an article today. I don't know when it's going to go because the bye week is crazy with trying to fill in stuff that we're not used to doing. I'm used to writing injury reports every day, and we don't have those and things like that. So I thought I'd just throw out a little commentary piece. It was more of a reminder to myself, and that is stop looking ahead. I got really bad when it came to that Ravens game. I started to look ahead. I'm like, if the Steelers take down the Ravens, oh, here they are with the division, and they have this ahead, and the Ravens have that ahead, and this and that and the other. I got to not look ahead. Well, in order to write this article, I actually looked ahead, and I did it in the article because Ravens, 6 of their next 7 is tough.
Yeah, I mean, they're in the brutal part of their schedule.
Yeah, the Steelers, their brutal part of their schedule is behind them. Doesn't mean that they don't have good. They still got the Rams. They got them at home. They still got the Bills, who have a good record. I don't know. We'll find out more about them as the season goes on. Got them at home. So that's one thing. Does this team have a chance to make the playoffs? Absolutely. Is that something they should even be considering right now? Absolutely not.
Absolutely not.
The point of my article was this: win your next game. End of story. Win your next game. Win your next game. Then guess what? Win that game.
Going after yep.
Then win the next game. Don't even worry about that game now. Don't worry about, oh man, we still got to play this team. No, win your next one. Because guess what? If you falter in one of these coming along, you're got yourself in a hole that's almost, the Steelers are almost to a point where they cannot dig out of the hole that they're in. But there's still life. If you have another setback where you lose a game that you should win, I don't know if they can climb out of it. I don't know if they can climb out of another one because they've got a couple tough games left. I don't think they're going to win out or anything like that. They still have an uphill climb, but let's take on the whatever Dolphins in the next game and use that as a, hey, this is a good one coming out of the bye. Coming out of the bye is big. I don't know about you. I think coming out of the bye is huge because when you're coming out, it's kind of setting the precedence after you're almost doing a reset for the season. So the Steelers getting that game right there out of the bye, they've got to win the next game. End of story. That's not a game they can lose. You look at somebody that's also in the same boat as the Steelers that are 2-4 and going into their bye week right now in the Cleveland Browns. They got to go to New England coming out of the bye. I mean, that's just got to be ouch.
Go where? Where are they going?
Up north.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
You got to go play that team up north.
Yeah, got to go play the team up north.
And yeah, ouch.
Yeah. I got to answer this question quick. I'm going to try to catch up with you guys a little bit. We've gone way over because I'm just having too much fun with my brother. For those of you that are just joining us, this is my brother. I brought him on to talk about some fun numbers tonight. How on earth do I have 6 entries? It's very simple, Bo. I had to set up each league, and in order to be in the league, I had to enter the league. So I have 1 entry in every league, and then that way I can see them all and compile everything. So that's what happened with that. I'm the only person who was allowed to do that. And I can't win it anyway. And I'm doing the proper thing of making the same pick in every league and not trying to do something that. Dennis asked a good question about that when he said, "What are you going to do when everyone has to pick Miami and everyone loses because we're out of options?" That's funny. What I think is going to be funny is when everyone keeps picking against Miami and then they finally win a
Yeah,
game.
that's going to knock a lot of people out when that
Yeah.
happens.
Cree got knocked out because of the Colts losing to the Raiders. Yeah, but some of those teams that aren't good, I kind of still steer away from, like the people that got knocked out picking the Cowboys this past week. So, here someone told me about that. They said that the Ravens trade to get Peters. I'm assuming they're talking about
From the Rams.
okay.
So the Rams prior to going after Ramsey traded Peters.
Okay, so that's probably what they did. That probably maybe even helped. I don't know, with some cap space there. But you got to remember, is Ramsey still on his? Is he still on his rookie deal? I do believe. So we'll see what happens with that.
Ramsey's in the last year of that rookie deal.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So, okay, so there people are saying Marcus Peters. Yeah, I'm finally getting caught up with the live chat, everyone, because I don't know about you all, but I've had a lot of fun tonight. So Kevin said traded a pick and Kenny Young. I don't know. I don't remember who Kenny Young is.
Kenny Young is a linebacker.
Okay. Yep. Okay. That makes sense. I didn't want to say it and be wrong. People were asking questions about why we call him Mr. Third and Fifth and Mr. Butt Naked Get Robbed because Lance, these are both Lance's nicknames. I helped come up with the 3rd and 5th one because that's all he was to the Steelers now is the 3rd and the 5th we got out of there. People were asking about if Tomlin leaves. I'm not even going there. Just because, I mean, the Steelers would have to get a ton, but first Tomlin would have to want to go. And for someone who has been to that stadium and gone to games there, that team's a mess with their ownership. Some people are, hey, I like this one. Amario says 10-6 is possible. Yes, it is. 10-6 is because you know what else is possible? 12-4 is possible.
6-10 is possible. 6 and 10 is
possible.
I mean, you're talking to a guy who's math. Any of them could happen.
Yes. You know what's not possible? Jeff's 13-3. That's not possible.
Not possible.
Okay. Always Steelers says 11-5. I really believe that. They've got to get on that roll, and I think you got to start stacking the wins. And when you start stacking wins, it does something. So I keep wanting to say all that Colts game. No, not the Colts game. Dolphins. That's all that matters. So you lose one of those games like that. What to say, Dave Cree had to throw something there. Dave, you're a stat geek, not a name geek. Okay. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
So, Rich, before we get going here, anything else you want to say?
Thanks for having me. I actually had a lot of fun. It was a lot more fun than I thought it would be. You asked me, I was like, yeah, I don't know. But it's really no different than us, sitting around talking football.
Yeah, that's really what it is. And if it wasn't for paying attention to the live chat, it would have felt completely like that. It was just you and me talking. So, guys, I went over big time, but I did have a criticism last week. Someone told me my show wasn't long enough, that I shouldn't have stopped it. But sorry about that. But tonight you're probably saying, "Oh my goodness, these guys won't shut up." It is what it is. But lots of fun. Thanks, bro. This has been great.
Don't forget, you got to give me a plug here.
Yep. This is what I was going to say to finish it up. You guys got to listen to this. I've mentioned it a couple times before, but as you guys know, I have season tickets, it just so happened that this year, my brother, I hooked him up with another friend of mine that he finally got called for season tickets, and he went in with him. So my brother had games. You got your games what, like a week before the season started?
Yeah. A week
Yeah,
before
that's
the
when he got called about season tickets, and it was crazy. So then you got to try to say, what are you doing with these tickets? Everything else. Well, one of the games you ended up with was a game you and I had already planned on going to,
Yep.
and that was that game against the Los Angeles Rams on November the 10th at 4:25 p.m. at Heinz Field. So therefore, your tickets are for sale.
Yes.
And we don't like I mean, we'll sell them through Ticketmaster or something if we have to, but so much money goes to Ticketmaster. We'd rather sell them to someone else that we know and save
For a
them the
better price.
money.
Yep.
Yeah, save them the money. So you've got 2 tickets to the game that you're looking to sell. I'd said it was that you were looking there in the upper deck in the end zone
Yep.
for 240 for the pair.
Actually, you know what? I'd go 220 for the pair.
Oh, you're going to give the friends and family price.
Yep.
You're going to give the friends and family
Knock it
price.
down a little bit. Go to
Yep.
220 for the pair. They are section 525, row Z, seats 20.
They're around
And
20. Yeah.
20 and 21.
Yeah. So now, just so you know, row Z is not the last row. Some people are like, oh, you're in the right. No, it's not.
No,
It
about
goes into
halfway up.
double things. Yep, it's about halfway up in the upper deck. If you're curious about that, we can send you some pictures from there. But if you go to that game, Rich and I are going to be at that game. If you want to get those tickets, we will meet up with you for the game. We can meet up before or after or whatever. We usually come over on the Clipper. We'd like to get up there a little bit early for that game. I know sometimes we're pushing it for kickoff with other stuff we're going, but this is the Rams game on November 10th. For those of you that are asking, go on to behindthesteelcurtain.com, click on any of my articles, and one of the top things you'll see is my email address. If you email me, if you're interested in those tickets, we can hang out there at the stadium for the game. Whenever we did the giveaway for the preseason game, when I went to that game, I actually got to hang out with the winner for that one, and it was a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. I love interacting with you guys with the live chat and with people that comment on articles and everything through the website. It's great. So I'm going to be at the Dolphins game on Monday night. If any of you guys are going to be there, come see me in section 122. Look for the helmet. I'll be with my dad on that one. My dad hasn't gone to a game in years, but says, well, before he stops going altogether, he'd like to go to his first Monday night game. So I'm like, I can make that happen. So please, if you're interested in that game, let us know. Also, remember, it's the bye week, but we're still churning out all kinds of content at behindthesteelcurtain.com. We've got the injury report, well, not the official injury reports, but updates on players like when they're making signings and stuff like that. We've got lots of commentary going on, lots of analysis of the season so far. We're giving you at least 10 articles a day on there every day. We still have our 7 podcasts a week, one a day coming on. We will keep that up even with the bye week. I know there's no game Sunday, but Jeff is we're going to figure out something to do again as fill in when there's not that Sunday night game. We're probably gonna have to do it for 2 Sundays in a row because their next game's that Monday night game. So we'll even have to double up the following week. But you'll have tomorrow night. The Standard is the Standard, the flagship podcast for Behind the Steel Curtain. We will preview the bye week on Thursday night. Then we'll have Lance's I Said It on Friday. Another burning question on Saturday. It's going to keep coming. Thank you all for joining tonight. Thanks for just kind of listening on my brothers and my conversation and throwing us some good stuff out there. We really appreciate it. So, last words.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great night. Go Steelers. Here we go.
Yep. Tune in, tell a friend, and subscribe. See you guys next time.